Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic gets sent in to us by Gary Treet, who writes, "Greetings and salutations. I know the whole X-actor in X-role thing annoys you. Yes, it kind of does. But perhaps this one has a bit of traction. You've mentioned on the show that a lot of people are wanting John Krasinski for Mr. Fantastic. We're seeing that all over the place. But Krasinski himself keeps talking about it. Did you see his recent comments, and do you think there's any real-world chance that we could end up seeing him in the role whenever that happens?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, I generally, for people who watch the show for any period of time, I generally don't like entertaining questions. John, what do you think about X actor playing this role? Because it's like, we don't even know what that role really is. You may have an idea about it, but we don't know how the screenwriters are writing the character. As long, to me, I always say, I don't care as long as they get a talented performer. As long as they get a talented actor or actress in the role, I'm good. Other than that, I don't like speculating too terribly much about which actor should play which role. But the John Krasinski, and specifically John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic and Emily Blunt as Sue Storm, has been a discussion that has been basically impossible to avoid. They have been, people have been talking about it all over the place. Whenever, the discussion of Quiet Place 2 comes up, people want to talk about it. Whenever the discussion of anything Emily Blunt is connected with. I even remember talking about the Jungle Cruise movie that Emily Blunt has coming out. People wanted to talk about, could she be in a Fantastic Four relaunch over at Disney? And specifically, could her husband also come over? They would be like the ultimate power couple in the comic book movie realms. So yeah, I don't like to talk about it too much, but the reality is John Krasinski himself, as you pointed out in your email, Krasinski himself keeps talking about it. He's been talking about it for like over a year, and then this past weekend, he talked about it again. Now, he was asked about it, but he's not shying away from these questions, and this is what he had to say. He said the following: "I would love to be in the Marvel Universe. I love those movies because they're fun, but I also think they're really well done, and certainly a lot of my friends are in those movies. I have no idea what Marvel are thinking, but if they are considering me for Mr. Fantastic, continue to consider me because I would love it." Now, I just want to read that last part again. "But if they are considering me for Mr. Fantastic," and he actually puts in a specific character, "if they are considering me for Mr. Fantastic, continue to consider me because I would love it." Now, listen, Rob, we've talked about on this show before that, okay, big deal. Actor who works as an actor for a living says he would like a job. Woo, stop the presses. Big headline, right? But the reality here is, this is not the first time Krasinski has entertained these thoughts and entertained these questions. He's actually been pretty vocal about it. And I think that creates a pretty unique situation here. For instance, somebody said, "John, did you hear that a bunch of the original Power Rangers actors are saying they would be up for coming back to do a new Power Rangers movie with the original crew?" And I'm like, out-of-work actors saying they would like to be in a big-budget movie. Of course they would. Of course an actor would say, "I'd love to play this," and nobody wants to burn any bridges. But there does seem to be a little bit of legitimacy here. So, Rob, I want to ask you this question. First of all, would you be interested, understanding John Krasinski's work? Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. So would you, number one, be interested in seeing a John Krasinski as a Mr. Fantastic, and maybe by extension, Emily Blunt as Sue Storm? Number two, with all the talk going on about it, and considering how much he continues to entertain these sorts of things, do you think where there's smoke, there's fire? Like, do you think, number one, are you interested? But number two, do you think this could actually be a thing? How do you see it?
Well, first of all, I don't think that there is any better casting on planet Earth to play Reed Richards and Sue Storm than John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. They're actually married in real life. Krasinski, all you do is gray up his sidewalls there, and he has the gravitas, he has the personality, but I'll do you one better. I'll bet you that John Krasinski and Emily Blunt do play Reed Richards and Sue Storm, and I'll bet you that John Krasinski will be directing Fantastic Four, because he certainly proved his chops. He certainly proved his chops with A Quiet Place.
Yes, he did.
Marvel has gone after indie directors, and I think they have. Marvel is nothing if not a family affair. They've had the same executive team in place. I can't imagine a better, more. I mean, just for the overall tenor of that, what that movie should be. I can't imagine a better fit unless John Krasinski, and having seen him on talk shows and everything, I mean, you never know. They're always acting. But I mean, just watching him speak and talk about how much he fell in love with his wife, I'm like, my God, to bring that kind of an energy to a Fantastic Four film would just benefit the whole enterprise.
I want to throw in here quickly, Rob, just quickly. If they do that and they get, I guarantee you, obviously, if John Krasinski ends up directing Fantastic Four, the first guy that got to go out to be Dr. Doom is Rainn Wilson. Rainn Wilson needs to be Dr. Doom. I mean, right? You got to have Jim and Dwight back together again, don't you? I would think that's got to kind of be your automatic go-to. You got to have Rainn. Anyway, sorry, I'm just going on. So you're saying you don't just think that you'd like to see them do it. You think they might actually already be on board, and there's you think he actually ends up directing a Fantastic Four movie?
Yes, because, I mean, look, imagine the reaction of the fan base. I don't think, not since Patrick Stewart was cast as Professor X, is there probably a bit of casting that the entire world would embrace with open arms.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to, first of all, remember, the Fantastic Four they're fighting now 4 movies that haven't worked. And I think when Marvel puts out the first family of the Marvel comic universe and brings them over into the MCU, it's got to be a party, man. It's got to be a celebration. And I think this is the way to do it. And by the way, I think Kevin Feige, our Lord and Savior of the comic book universe movie, Kevin Feige knows what's up. I think this is not lost on him.
All right, and I'll put this, not that I'm trying to throw gasoline on the fire here, but also keep in mind, Emily Blunt is currently very, very snuggled up to Disney. She was just their Mary Poppins. She's doing their Jungle Cruise movie. So there's already clearly a very strong connection between Emily Blunt working with the studio. So I don't know. I still don't know. There's an element of this. Here's what I worry about, Rob. I worry about that they go out and get somebody else. I'm worried about the fan base, and this includes you and me. I worry that we, the fan base, get so attached to this idea of John Krasinski and Emily Blunt that if and when Kevin Feige does get around to doing Fantastic Four, which, by the way, we still have no idea when they plan on doing that. It could be 8 years from now. We just don't know.
Yeah.
But whenever he does get around to doing that he finds somebody or some people he thinks are actually even better for the role than those two. But we, the fan base, have already convinced ourselves it's going to be those two, and we get so attached to the idea that we're going to grumble when whoever they cast for the role actually comes out. So that's the one thing I always get worried about when we start getting into the fan casting and stuff like that we convince ourselves, because it's not like we haven't seen it before, right? Where we fans get so attached to either a theory or a casting idea or something, and then they don't do that, and we instantly just get turned off from it because they didn't do what our theory was. And I'm a little bit nervous about that, but I don't know, man. Like, you and a lot of the fans are making a lot of sense to me, and you might be convincing me that this might already be a done deal. This might already be a done deal.
I mean, the thing about it is, it's so perfect, and it's got so much going for it on so many different levels that, I mean, unless you're going to get Peyton Reed to come back and make it a 60s period piece or something, and they go in through the quantum realm and come back. I mean, which could be an interesting thing. Like, what if?
Well, you and I have both said before that we actually don't mind the idea of a Peyton Reed doing a Fantastic Four.
I mean, look, and you know what? Maybe Krasinski wouldn't want to direct something like this because he feels it might be a little bit beyond his grasp. So I'm not married to that idea, but I think Emily Blunt's only 36 years old. Reed Richards, they always were sort of more Johnny Storm is Sue's younger brother. And then the age is correct. I just think it's too perfect. It's like, why wouldn't you want to do this?
I can only think of one thing. We have heard whispers before with no confirmation, so this might not be true at all. But we have heard whispers before that Disney might be interested in actually doing kind of what Fox did with the most recent Fantastic Four in the sense of going younger. We have heard a theory that they may want to go younger, like mid-20s. You've mentioned Emily Blunt is 36, John Krasinski is 40. So, which I think is perfectly, I personally think that's great ages for, I think that's perfect. But if they do want to go younger, that kind of puts them out of the running. I mean, that's the only, like you were asked, why wouldn't you do it? The only thing I can possibly think of is it ain't talent that's going to keep them out of it. The only thing I can think of is if Disney and Kevin Feige really have it set in their heads that they want a younger group. I don't know. Can you think of anything else? I can't. I'm grasping at straws here.
But it's funny because to me, the Fantastic Four, even when I was reading their comics, during the Byrne era and stuff, I'm like, they're not kids, and trying to make the Fantastic Four like young, I don't think works. Reed Richards has gravitas. He's one of the most grounded. He's I don't want to call him an elder statesman, but he's one of the most definitely respectable men in the Marvel universe. And I want to believe that Reed Richards is that guy. And you make the Fantastic Four skewing younger, and I just don't buy him anymore. I'm like, the Tim Story Fantastic Four stuff, it never felt right to me. Everybody felt miscast. And I never felt like, I didn't buy it. But I would buy Emily Blunt and John Krasinski.
I kind of dug Michael Chiklis's thing. I don't know why.
He was good.
And I didn't mind Chris Evans. I didn't mind Chris Evans as Johnny Storm either. I didn't mind Chris, but I mean, yeah, there were a lot of problems there. All right, guys, listen. How are you feeling about all this? Rob seems to think that not only is a possibility, it might be a done deal. Keep in mind, of course, Emily Blunt has been working a lot with Disney. Maybe he could even be directing it. Maybe you're a little bit more skeptical than that and say, come on, guys, this is not how it happens in the real world. All the fantasy fan casting. The only time I can really think of it actually following through was the example you brought up, Rob, which was the Patrick Stewart as Professor X. That one happened, but it really doesn't happen very often. So what do you guys think? Number one, I need you to jump down to the comment section and tell us, first of all, do you like the idea of a John Krasinski as a Mr. Fantastic? And then the second question is, which is a totally different question, do you think there's actually something here? Do you think where there's smoke, there's fire? Do you think that maybe like Rob does, that this could be a done deal? I want to know what you guys think. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.